like that many people this early in the day, which is good because it's the first one. So I'll upload it later.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm posting it on social media right now. Bring in some folks, maybe. Boom. Okay, let's do it.
Cool.
Still working?
Yeah, we are live.
Sweet.
Hey everybody, I don't know who's there watching, but this is the first comic book commentary with myself and fellow Devil's Due creator, starting off with our first episode, Pat Shan, talk all about Little Girl.
How's it going? Little Girl is, it's a ghost story from the ghost point of view. It follows this little ghost girl as she goes on a murder spree, and through her adventure in killing, she finds out what happened to her.
Fun times, because it's
definitely
out there who may have seen the issue. We've got the this is issue number 2, which has not been out on the shelves very long. Issue 3 is on the way, yeah. So this is the first time we've done something like this,
Yep.
And what I wanted to do was just, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. I wanted like a reason to do more content, sort of a podcast format about Devil's Due creators specifically, and we've got such a good diverse group of people doing all kinds of amazing things. But the problem for someone like me who's running the company and also doing my own writing, and then everybody else is all around the country doing conventions and stuff, it's like, how do you come up with just stuff to talk about?
Right.
It's like just no-brainer kind of like DVD commentary type of thing, which I haven't really seen done before. Giving creators a chance to go in and look over specific issues and sort of just talk about it. So, and then a bunch of dumb stuff's going to come up along the way, which is probably going to be even more entertaining. Like me and Pat can sit here for a half hour and try to figure out why nobody in comics likes hip hop or cares.
It's crazy. That is crazy. It's true. It's true.
It is true. They don't believe us. You say that though, they're like, no.
Yeah, it's like they listen to exclusively metal, and I mean, this sounds super ignorant, but I didn't know that metal is like still actively made. You know, like that sounds like so 80s to me. Like I'm such a hip hop dude that yeah. I mean, of course I know it's made, but they make enough for you to listen to new music. That shocks me. So I'm ignorant on the other side.
95 and earlier. Speaking of, I am wearing this because I couldn't help today. Have you ever heard this story about Misfits?
I don't think so. No.
The Danzig and the Michael Golden thing.
Oh wait, I did. You told me that story. Yeah. That you told me at Cincinnati. That's kind of crazy.
Because that's where we learned about it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Go just Google Michael Golden Danzig logo and just see the cover that this thing was ripped off from.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny story.
Literally just traced. Yeah, but back to Little Girl. Yeah, so like what really drew me to this series was that just you've got this I mean, it's obviously a very recognizable theme with the sorry, I'm going to the right screen here. Kind of a Japanese horror feel, like the Ring or the Grudge, but just told from the perspective of a ghost. And it's one of those simultaneously like kind of like no-brainer, like, oh, I get it, but then at the same time it's just approached from a completely different angle. I can just kind of showing people like, you know, some of the pages here if they haven't seen this before. Do you want to just dive right in and you kind of guide me on what you like to talk about, or I can just sort of go page to page?
Yeah, sure. You know, with this series, and it's kind of funny that I'm going to say this because in a few pages we're going to get to a very dialogue-heavy exchange. But my thing is dialogue. I love chewing language. I love conversationally driven scripts. I mean, as you can see, I'm driving my letterer crazy here with like 27 bubbles. But what I want to do with this series is make that kind of thing less common and make this a less dialogue driven book and more focus on the quiet horror of it all. And it's kind of hard in comics because the thing is that uh, readers are trained to look for the dialogue and not to really ingest the art. So often the function of some dialogue and definitely captions is to slow the reader's eye down. But with this one, I want to just pull back on that and trust the reader to focus on the visuals and let the visuals tell this kind of like non-linear story that doesn't really it doesn't give the reader like a backbone or a bridge from scene to scene. It just kind of throws you in there and lets you question what's happening. Did this happen now? Did this happen back then? And then hopefully by the end, the reader can piece it all together and put things in order. You know, because I feel like comics is a genre where I find it's common that writers don't trust the reader, you know, and they kind of like take the reader by the hand and say, here's this caption establishing this location we've seen 27 times, you know. Yeah. So with this book, I wanted to do the polar opposite and just kind of push the reader into a situation where they don't really know what's going on. And hopefully that adds to the fear and the tension there.
Yeah, and that's what I think you do a good job of. Is it's I run into this with some of my own writing too, like where what's good and why I know you're doing a good job at it is when you read it, it all makes sense. That jumping back and forth in time and sort of these, you know, parallel, not subplots, but just parallel events happening that sort of tie together. And when you read it, it totally seems natural and just works. Kind of harder to explain to someone, but yeah, and I think that's one thing you're really good at. And then another thing too is just what's really nice about this and just fresh is even though this is a horror book and this is about this little ghost girl, I mean, the interactions with the people, it's very like on the pulse of like just modern life, you know, just the relationship back and forth, the dating tripes, but you kind of assume it's a tripe, but then it's really like, oh no, I didn't see that coming. But you know, it's just sort of like, yeah, I don't want to give like too much, but like the status of the relationship between you know, the first two characters that we're introduced with, and then going into the book further as this little penguin follows everybody around and ruins their life. If you want to talk about the penguin a little bit.
Yeah, sure. You know, with that, it's kind of funny because I went into this out of fear. You know, I've always been terrified to the point of like a real life terror of ghosts. You know, I'm very superstitious, and I have pretty intense OCD where before I go to bed to like ward off bad dreams, I have like a little ritual that I do to like kind of like ease my OCD. And often it just focused around the idea of having nightmares about ghosts, and they were often little children. And I can't watch movies with that kind of character. So I thought a way to kind of explore that. And because I don't think it's just me either. I think that the idea of a little child ghost is terrifying to more people than just me. It's a pretty common thing to be quite scared of. So I wanted to dive into that kind of story myself, and through it figure out what's so scary about that. And in doing that, I wanted to humanize Abby, the ghost. So I was like, what do you see that little girls and little boys, just children, have in real life that they don't have in these horror films? And the idea is toys, you know, like they have toys. And as a kid, I would surround myself in like a protective barrier of stuffed animals. So I thought, how can I give this character something that is at the same time humanizing, but also plays into the horror of it all, you know, and plays into the actual story and facilitates her journey from character to character. And because, you know, I could easily have it as just like some kind of toy that she holds in her hand while she kills people, but that's less interesting. So I wanted to just add depth to it and add a sense of drama because we know that when this penguin gets passed from character to character, we can eventually put together what happens.
Yeah. And then it just sort of people think this is a good thing. This is ending up in their life, and it's this cute thing. Kind of weird that this penguin passes around from person to person. After a while, it gets thrown in the laundry every now and then. But
you just wash some of that blood out.
actually, so this happened in real life for people like we're doing this story, and then I actually also do another book of comic about penguin characters, so it's even funnier. My wife and I were driving to visit family from Ohio originally. We're driving back there, and we're in the middle of Indiana, and I would stop off at this coffee shop and just kind of like stretching our legs and stuff. And there's all these rocks out in front, and I go and I look over, and there's some weird scribbling on this rock, and I just turn it over, and it's this penguin. It's someone had painted this penguin on a rock in the middle of country town, and I was just like, the timing was just so creepy. So
it would scare me for sure.
Take this thing, and turned out it's something where people like paint rocks and leave them places, and they hope that you post them online. So we took it to like San Diego, London, and back here to Chicago, and then I actually eventually did return it though back at the same coffee shop on another trip, and I put it back where I found it. So I felt like I was like returning the VHS tape from The Ring.
Oh shit, for sure. That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, what's funny about that too is with The Ring, right? That scared me as a viewer because it's the whole like meta aspect, like the tape that the characters watch. We through them watch that, so we're involved in that way, So yes, seeing the penguin in real life, I imagine that's pretty fucking terrifying. Yeah.
So we will make plushies at some point if this thing keeps going.
It'd be crazy. A viral marketing ploy where we put like 100 plushies just out in the wild. Like throw some on roads.
Yeah. There's one cool scene where I can get it open here with the right. Oh, I love this. This is just some great. Giving Olivia Paliez, the artist, a shout out.
Yes.
This is some just great classic sequential art.
Yeah, because actually, this scene is what I wanted to talk about for sure. Because we were talking about how. There we go. Because we were talking about how we're letting the visuals tell a story here. And I remember when this was first going to print, the PDF only had this as 2 separate pages. And with them separated, I got a call from you, and you're like, Pat, we got to talk about number 2. I'm not really sure what's going on. And I was like, all right, I'm going to send you the PDF with those pages together, and it's going to be 100% clear. And I did, and it was, because
one of the best. Yeah, it's one of the best scenes ever.
Yeah, this right here, it's one of those things where she placed each panel so specifically that if you cut the pages in half, it makes no sense. But once you see them together, you're like, oh shit, and it's so easy to follow and so clear. It's one of probably the ballsier things that we've done in this book, because what I wanted to recreate there was in film, you can experience someone traveling or something being passed along by multiple characters within 50 seconds. But in comics, you can't have that many scene changes. So here I wanted to just really condense a journey of this doll from one location through a bunch of locations to give a sense of how the doll needs to stay with someone for a bit longer for something to happen, right? And just to like also have a fun little journey in the middle of the book, and just see how far it's taken, and how it always does come back to where it does need to be. So yeah, no, I thought that this was cool. I think that Olivia nailed it. It's one of those things where I wrote it and I was like, man, like this is going to be a hard scene to pull off, but she killed it. She really killed it. And also too, you'll notice Uh, Here you can see Frank Gamboa, the colorist. His use of red shades really helps the actual reading order too. You know, you have these kind of two different types of scenes. You have these like blue and yellow light scenes, and then these warmer red and orange scenes. And I think that those really help you not direct your eye in the wrong way. And yeah, no, Fran and
I
yeah.
thought I was showing it for like a long time. We did show it for a minute, but I accidentally clicked over to away from it. So I'm gonna leave it on here for a while while we're talking about it.
Yeah. No, yeah, man. That is yeah, just seeing it like this, seeing how important the just the color choices is pretty cool.
Yeah, and like going back to this being a really good example, just stepping away from even our, this being about us, but just being a good example of sequential art storytelling in the comic book medium. You
Right.
really kind of extrapolate those perfect examples that you would explain to someone who's not familiar with the medium and what makes it special, or when you're trying to teach a class or something. It's sort of like, I'm kind of simplifying, but there's one thing to do just easily tell what's going on with the character moving around almost like an animation where you're just skipping parts, filling in the blanks in your mind in between the gutters, which would be akin to like the GI Joe issue 21, the Snake Eyes silent issue, which is like a famous example of sequential art. But that you can tell exactly what's happening on with no words, and that's cool in and of its own right. But it's more obvious, and then you have the the bad example, I think, where the narration is explaining everything that's happening.
Oh my god, yeah. Dude, yes. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's such a thing where and it was popular for an era. You know, there was an era where it was the norm, where you'd have a caption that explains what's happening that you can see. You know, so there's the visual drawing it, there's the
Yeah.
caption drawing it, there's the character thinking a thought bubble of what they think about the situation, and then speaking something that's very similar to the thought bubble. And it's like, listen, that I know that we got to respect where we came from too, but I don't think it's bad to be cinematic and to really capture the idea that if a reader can look at something, right, and understand what's happening. They don't need text explaining an image. The image explains itself. If the reader kind of glimpses through that too quickly, that's not on us, the creator. That's on the reader. You know, that's their job to follow in that way. You know, so yeah, no, I definitely love comics that really just pull back and just let the reader find themselves. Because to me, what a caption should do, and we don't do captions in Little Girl, but I do some books where we do. I always prefer to have captions that shed light on what the character is going through emotionally. And I love captions. My favorite example of a caption is when a character's internal thoughts contradict their speech. So you can see how a character is lying, you can see what they're actually thinking. And that kind of thing works for me. It works less for me when it's like, you know, it was a cold night that the fog created a veil of who knows. It's like, yeah, the artist drew the fog. I know what it created. It's a veil, you know, like it just yeah.
There's also the other extreme too. I guess I kind of left out with it. You get like, I guess this more common in the '90s, but you have these pages where it's just a picture of not anything specific happening, and if it wasn't for complete explanatory narration, you would have no idea what's happening. And it's become more of just like cool illustrations telling the story, and that double page spread is just a good example of the perfect blending where you could look at it, you could tell movement, you could tell what's happening, but you can't completely like tell the whole story without everything coming together. You need that art, you need the flow, you need the dialogue, everything just works perfectly well.
Absolutely, dude. And I mean, like, what I would point out too is, have you, have you ever read a comic where you're reading the panels and it uses just a random arrow to point you to the next panel?
I'm guilty of making those.
Wait, you've done that?
Line.
Oh my god!
Did movies, actually.
Wait, hold on. I've only ever seen that in like old school comics, and in every instance, I'm like, no, I knew that, you know, like sh- I would love you to show me where you did that, so I can either understand or make fun of you. But
It's gonna be an old black and white comic book, I'm pretty sure, but I can probably
okay,
do
okay, gotcha. Yeah, but yeah, no, that that
all out, and you do it in like a very McFarlane-y kind of way, where you're like, you know, the fucking panel itself's an arrow or something. You know, it just
that's cool. It would be cool too if like say there was an outside element like a snake, right, that connects panels together and like guides you that way, or
drawing it, and you're like, uh-oh.
and and a snake, yeah. But also one thing too that I noticed that we were very careful to not do here, because sometimes you can get away with it, but you'll notice in that spread we had the panels set over a larger image. You know, the main image is Abby like waiting, you know, and they're all insert panels over that big spread there. Yeah. So but we also were careful to make sure the eye carries over from the left page to the right page by putting that one red panel in the top row,
Yeah,
because yeah, because I've seen double page spreads where there's no connective panel that spans one page to the next in until on the bottom, and by the time that you get to the bottom you've already been reading one page as a page. So just for a like kind of creative note, we chose to put that wide panel on top to make sure as soon as the reader would look at the lower panel on one page, instead their eye carries over, you know. And it's just those kind of tricks that help show the reader where to go, because there are so many double page spreads that I've read and I looked at and I thought it was a single just set of pages first. And so it's not enough to have the panels set over one larger image. You have to really facilitate the reader's journey from one page to the next page in a way that isn't just straight down.
yeah. Just scrolling through the pages here, really, you can see how the coloring just really carries the mood from, and there's a real sense of change, which is great.
Yeah,
There's
Friend's amazing, definitely.
yeah, I think another thing, speaking of all of the dialogue and everything, like, so Pat writes very phonetically, I think, which I really like. You know, I think we both use a lot of like dot dot dot
Yeah,
going over to the next panel, to the next balloon.
definitely.
And it's probably a good segue that you know, we announced a while ago that you're co-writing with me on the new Mercy Sparks stuff.
Hell yeah, man. Absolutely.
We've started to get a little bit of started to get art coming in from that, from Claudio Avila, probably saying it's probably Avila. And I have one thing here I wanted to show.
Let's look, man. Let's take a look.
Bear with me while I learn what the hell I'm doing on screen. Did I close that window? I think I closed that file. This is real, people.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I'll fill in while you look for that. What's cool about Mercy is oh, here we go. Yeah, I read Mercy as a fan first. You know, Josh, I was talking to you about how it happened, but someone just gave me an issue of Mercy at Heroes Con once. It was just a random issue in the middle of everything, and it starts with it's the one where Mercy is like in a bathroom stall and she's scratching like Faustia like loves dicks, you know, or something, you know. And it was
she's having a very important conversation about the world being about to end, and
yes.
he's scribbling in Faustia loves dicks.
It was just amazing. You know, I love the balance of humor and this really high stakes. You know, it feels real to me because the thing is that I watch all this like post-apocalyptic type stories, and everyone's just like so grim the whole time. And the truth is, humor is part of life. Just because circumstances change, it doesn't change who you are. And it is a tough balance as a writer to not like kill the mood of darkness. But Marcy did a great job of really making the stakes still feel high while the humor and the character moments were really strong too. So yeah, that drew me in as a reader. So to come on as co-writer to me is super super cool. Yeah, that's a page we got there, right?
She is right there.
There she
Oh,
is.
my elaborate display has been revealing all of the comic book boxes behind this shelf. Yeah. Um, yeah, it just seemed like a good segue between. I mean, sorry, a good pairing. With the way that you handle like a lot of supernatural stuff and the dialogue approach. Plus, it's really important that Mercy's not. She's intentionally a very stereotypical like devil character. She's the sexy red devil. That you would typically see walk around with a bikini and a big giant sword and like slashing, angels up. The thing with Mercy Sparks is she's a devil that is hired by heaven to hunt down rogue angels, and she's just sort of abducted, wakes up on Earth looking like a human,
Yes.
and given her orders, which sort of starts it all. And she really doesn't want to do the job, so she's kind of grumpy about it and tends to just try to drink and smoke and procrastinate.
And you, I mean, I don't want to show your hand here, but you told me an interesting thing that you kind of hear Mercy's voice and picture her to act as the character who played Mickey in Love, right? And what I found interesting about that and really easy to write was that while I was watching that show and seeing that character speak, it reminded me very much of my wife Amy, So I find Mercy a very easy character to write. She's yeah, very strong voice, very unique voice. And yeah, no, the that energy, that kind of fuck the world type energy really appeals to me as a writer. Super fun stuff. And that's that Pauline Ganushel cover, right?
Yeah, that was the one that one really.
Love that cover, man. That's one of my favorite covers. Love that.
Yeah, Paulina just killed it. She also did a human version of that, which I just got a new computer, so I don't know where I pulled that up right away. But the artist for a long time and still involved every now and then is Matt Merhoff. So yeah. He really did an amazing job for years on the series. Actually, see if I can share some of that, which is what people are really most familiar with, I think, is like classic Mercy. Yeah, it's funny the Mickey thing, because Mercy's been around for years now, and I didn't. I'd always keep an eye out to try to explain to people, to artists, like what I'm trying to convey in the writing, whether I'm doing my job or not, because there's a lot of jokes and banter and things, but the artists tend to make it look more animated and like make her look as a person more animated. That I always want to try to capture the sense of apathy in her.
Yes.
She might move around suddenly or fuck around with people, and joke every now and then, but at the same time, there's just this sense of like, I always my joke in conventions is she's like, it's like supernatural preacher and all that stuff, but she acts like Billy Bob Thornton in Bad Santa.
Nice.
And yeah, this was covered our Who's Who guide that Matt did. But yeah, so anyway, we're working on that. It's issue 13. We're going to be doing a Kickstarter campaign. It will be available, of course, through all of the comic book shops. Yeah, it ended the series years ago, over about 2 years ago, ended with issue 12, and then there was this big mini series, year 1, which dove into her origins and everything, and she had to sort of go back into her past in order to figure out how to stop this big epic crisis that was happening. And now it's going to go back into 13, picking up where that series left off.
Yes.
That's kind of a big deal for it.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, but this is really more about Little Girl. So What non-Devils Do stuff you got going on that you're maybe
Oh
like
man.
deadlines right now?
I mean, some, most of the stuff that I'm working on right now, I'm working on two non-comics projects that are taking up a bunch of time. But on the comics front, I have a Snapflash Hustle coming from Black Mask. That's a story about it's a team of models from Instagram who are sort of using social media to hide their drug business in plain sight. And beyond that, though, that's 4 issues. That is coming out in November. My Trade for Breathless, which is my previous Black Mask series, that is about a scientist who discovers the cure for asthma in the body of a monster. That comes out in trade early next year, I believe. But beyond that, right now, I'm working on securing some new creator-owned stuff for next year. Um, I'm always doing stuff on my own. I have my own company, Space Between, where I do Kickstarters about every 3 months. So I'm gearing up for our big plans next year. And the main focus to start off next year for me there is volume 3 of my ongoing series, Destiny New York, which is a love story told in graphic novels about a former magical girl who falls in love with the last surviving daughter of a mystical crime family. So it's this ongoing saga where you know it's a world where magic is a real and mundane part of life. So we have this whole cast of characters who we explore and really treat the book like a season of TV where each character has an arc within a uh, graphic novel, and yeah. So the next big thing for me besides stuff with Devils Do is definitely just more Destiny New York.
Ooh, well, I think that's pretty much we're pretty much out of time. There's no this is our first broadcast, so as time goes on, these will probably become a little more hectic with chats and questions, and we're just gonna throw this thing on YouTube, and we'll be sending this around to our email database, our email list. To anybody else who wants to sign up for that for these future videos, subscribe here to the channel. Go to devilsdo.net. What's your spacebetween.com? What's your website?
Not yet. Right now, I'm just on social media. I'm Pat Shan pretty much everywhere. And as far as the company, it's Space Between Ent on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. But you know what though? Before we go, I have a question for you about Little Girl. This how you picked up the book was so unconventional, and I was really intrigued and wanted to know like what stood out to you about that book because for a while you and I have been talking and what happened that made the book happen was I've been pitching it around and one day I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna put this out there in the world. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I posted pages, like a whole pitch online, and pretty much instantly you and I were talking, and we talked and the book happened quite soon afterwards to the point where a different company came to me about it right after you and they were like give us a week and I was like no I'm ready to go man like I'm ready to fucking go. Oh, can I curse on this thing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready to fucking go. so yeah, you like saw that book and went to it as soon as I posted it. So are you like do you have your eye to social media always or are you like what about the way that happened made that happen? I've been curious as me,
A little bit of everything. I mean, part of it's always timing. There had been a period where I felt like we had a certain amount of books and I couldn't sign on a lot more. And it's a little bit of like we changed our model, like the deal that you have as a creator-owned deal for Little Girl is a little different, a little more hands-off on our end
right.
for than some of our others. And I had just like kind of finalized that, so I was looking for stuff, but also I can't if I could pat myself on the back. I do have a good track record of spotting things that I think are quick sale, sells that people get in like 1 or 2 sentences. It's got to be some hook. It's sort of like is one of those like no brainers, like going all the way back to the years of like hack slash. Was it's the final girl goes back to take out these slashers that had just never been done before. It was so obvious. And then drafted a book with Mark Powers was like Alien Invasion with they come in peace, but they come to draft us all into a war. Just these really simple hooks. And with Little Girl, just seeing the image there, it did something about her in the bathtub and everything. Is just even though it's very, it wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's very iconic. Like kind of you already know what kind of horror it probably is.
Right.
But there was a different twist on it, just enough that just felt like one of those. I don't know. It's kind of your gut too. I mean, I'm just all your mitochondria start acting up here.
For sure.
Florians.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Just I think I have a really shitty answer. I don't have a good answer for you.
No. That is a good answer, because I when I'm looking for an artist, I always am looking around. And what's for sure true is that I've noticed that sometimes and this I don't get, writers will post their entire plot, like their pitch online with no art. Like, oh yeah, here's a cool story I thought up. And I wouldn't do that. But with this, like, I don't know. Like, I wanted to I didn't imagine it would get picked up this way. I used it to show that I could get people to like that status and to show that they wanted interest in the book. So then I could pitch it around via email, like an old person, I guess, and just like show it that way. But the fact that like you even read it on social media was super cool to me, So that I thought that was kind of forward thinking of you. So that made me, just want to ask what your process was there for sure.
And it does come too from like having, where if this was a person who is unpublished, or I never heard of before, like I know what your styles are like, so it's a little easier, if I never heard of it, I still asked to see it, and you had a lot of work done.
Yeah.
And it was follow up. It was, you set a schedule and actually got the book done, which that would have eliminated like 95% of everybody else.
That's true. That's true, man. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many things about the brutal thing about comics, and any entertainment. You can spend years on it. And if one, it doesn't matter how good it is, it's not going to be for everybody. But two, somebody can put an amazing book together and the art's just off just like a little bit. And, it's the judgment that goes into that from the reader or from someone outside looking at it is not even a second. It's not even a second. It's just like, it's, oh, don't like it. Or, oh, shit, that's awesome. And
100%. Yep.
Like that's how fast it is. That's why I like go on. Don't invite me to talk at your art college where they give art degrees because it's just that's how brutal it is. That that's how important the visuals matter when you're trying to pitch something too. So
100%. Yeah.
Olivia's kind of I guess say cartoonier style but it just fits very well for the series. And it's not what you would normally think of if you start thinking of like horror styles. And then those covers though still really somehow she managed to pull off that like sort of cartoonier style but in a creepy way.
Yeah, it's
doesn't really bother people.
No, I agree, and I think it's such a weird thing, but I think that when most artists draw cartoony, they draw circularly. Like all the characters are very round, they have soft angles. Olivia's cartoony is very angular, and I think that really lent itself to a very bony, just like skeletal character,
Yeah, like I can show actually some of these. Hold on a second. I thought I had. Oh, here we go. They're right here. Like, and the covers. make people jealous now because I actually have these in hand. You don't even have these yet.
I do not. I want those. Gimme.
That's 3 and issue 4. The covers really, I think, really popped at the end there.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are getting FedEx. You know, I got to do that before I go out of town. The Alien Con. So anybody who's going to be in Baltimore, I'm going to go be the first Devil's Due guinea pig to go to Alien Con.
Hey, nice.
It's all for professional reasons. And then yeah, we wrap up. Also, just anybody watching too, I'll be at Louisville SuperCon November 29th. I think it's the 29th through December 2nd, 3rd, followed by a convention in Nashville, which we should give a shout out to Mark Ballard from Nashville Comic and Toy Con. He actually really got behind Little Girl and supported that. There's an ad in the books right now. December 8th and the 9th, I'll be there too. And are you done with shows for the year, or?
Probably. I don't know, man. You know, it's one of those things where if something comes up and it's a good thing, you know, but I just keep flashing back to, and I'll probably do a story about this that's set in this terrain. But I remember I did a show in around, I think, February last year, and it snowed. And the snow started as I went to get dinner for myself, because it was in this area where it was just the hotel a convention was at, then my hotel, and then nothing for a while. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go get some sheets, like sheets, the Pennsylvania nasty food.
Sheets, issue of Mercy Sparks too. We had to give them a shout out.
Hey.
I had it on the smaller screen when I was showing these off before.
There we go. Yeah. So I drove to get sheets, and man, by the time I got back, the whole area was covered in snow. And I was driving, and I was like, I'm about to die over a cheeseburger with some Doritos on it. Like, this is not okay, you know? So I'm kind of unsure about doing shows in the winter. I'm not sure how much it's worth it. But if the offer's right, I'm going to be there. I'm going to risk life and limb to come down and show my wares, you know?
I'm just computer's about out of juice here. We had to like move it to connect farther away for the lighting to be right.
Gotcha.
Just keeping it real, people. All right, cool. I actually have to go pack for Alien Con, so I'll let you get back to writing on all your mysterious little secret scripts that hopefully we can talk about soon.
Hopefully, man. Hopefully.
And thanks everybody for joining, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.